Hey everybody, it's Sarah the Redneck Bifocal Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube. This is Flosstube number 3. I don't really want to call it an episode because I have filmed way more than just 3 episodes at this point. This is a channel all about cross stitch and my love of the art. As I was getting ready for this, for the 3rd day, I was pumping myself up, and I feel a lot like, and I mentioned this to a friend last night, I feel a lot like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone when he's walking out his front door and he's shouting out into the universe, "Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore." And he gets to the end of the walkway and his neighbor is standing there with a bucket of salt and his shovel, and Kevin looks up at him and screams bloody murder and runs back in the house. That's how I feel every time I go to push this little record button. I'm not afraid anymore, and then recording, and all I want to do is shut it off and not do anything at all. One day I'm gonna blow you all out of the water. That's all I can say. But anyway, I have got so much to show you still, and it never ends. I just, in prepping and getting ready for everything, I have a lot of stuff. So let's get started. I did have a trip that I took early in August. So I pulled out my travel piece, which is the Beekeeper from Plum Street Samplers. We'll back that up here. Before I went on my trip, I had just this little section of the leaves done. So I've worked on this skep and gotten all of that done, flying when I wasn't gripping the handles or the seat and praying that we don't just fall out of the sky, which I understand how planes work and aerodynamics and all of that stuff. But much like filming a floss tube, I also have a pretty bad fear of flying, which is crazy because as a pianist, I will sit down and play at any piano in public, not a problem. Speaking in public, also not a problem. I've done that before, but for some reason, it's that record button that just puts me on a different level of thinking and operating. So anyway, Beekeeper, I am going to be flying to Los Angeles with my best friend for a girls' trip. We are going to Disneyland for a few days, and just the 2 of us, adults. It'll be fun. So I will be taking Beekeeper with me, and we'll see how much progress I get on that. Maybe I'll take it into the park and stitch on it while I'm waiting in line. I know some people have done that before. The idea of it sounds fun. I don't know if I want to lug it around, but hey, we'll see. And then I did have 3 finishes. 3 finishes. This first finish is my little Stitch for Sage hashtag. This design is from Night Spirit Studio. He used my scissors to cut paper. This is on a Steel City Stitchers piece of Crimson Peak. I stitched everything with my own little conversion. It was more of a, this is what I have in front of me and I'm going to work on it. So the bones and the skulls are in 3865. I don't know what the brown is right here. That's the coffin. Everything else is in 310, and the scissors are in like a 645, 647 color. And then I finished the beading and all of the charms on another stocking. And so this one is done and ready to be made into a stocking itself. I think this is my favorite out of most of the shepherd's bush stockings I've done. I love the jewel tones in this king, his coat. I love the boat. I love boats. I've loved ships and sailing ever since I can remember. So here's this really cool button down here. You've got a bunch of flowers here in this meadow with the sheep. There's a neat little elephant charm right here. And then coming down, there's some buttons or beads in the crown, a heart, a star. There are these buttons all along in his coat, here and here. And then up at the top, this sun charm is different from the one that's on the original pattern, but that's okay. I still like it. I think this one is pretty cool. And then I also finished Sutton's stocking. This is for my great niece. All of the charms and beads and buttons are on this as well. You've got a snowman in the middle of the meadow. There's a little fox down here by the fence, a snowflake charm, some buttons. Here's a Jabco present button, and you've got a few little extras on these presents. All of these are white beads, and then you've got a little silver bird. The star, there are beads in the centers of all of these flowers. There's a little snowflake charm up there, a button on the top of the snowman's head, and then there are beads in all of the snowflakes. So when I was at Shepherd's Bush, legitimately picking something I legitimately needed, I talked to them and asked if they had anybody in mind that I could contact to find out about learning how to stitch these stockings into stockings. And they gave me a card and said, give this person a call. They're local. They are this person that they referred to me is actually the person who taught the person. Let me stop and restart here. Person A taught my current finisher, person B, how to finish, and person B charges more than person A. So of course I'm going to give person A a call to see if they will either teach me or finish. Whatever the cost is, I will get it done because it needs to be done. So that's it for finishes. And what I worked on during August, I picked about 6. I think I have 6 or 7 Q snaps. So I figured I would put pieces on the Q snaps and say that's what I was going to be doing for the month. So one of my whips I decided to work on was a new constellation. This month I was able to finish this bottom border, the rest of the flag. I started working on the Liberty Bell motif up here, and then I finished all of this background stitching with Petite Maison. And then up here above, there is going to be a little panel with Betsy Ross getting married. And then above that, it will be the sentiment about creating a new constellation or creating the flag. There's the flowers that will go on the border, and then I'll be done. I feel like having stitched all of this background is a really big section of this piece, and that I'm so much closer to being done. I did look up some information. So the wedding scene up here that will be up here is when Betsy Ross married her first husband. This date and these initials are her second husband. This date and these initials are when she married her third husband. And then this is her headstone and when she passed away. And her name was not Betsy Ross. It was actually Elizabeth. So there's a little fun history for you. Then I also worked on Pretty Little Amsterdam. and I have a rogue thread hanging out from one of the clouds. So here is pretty little Amsterdam. I got a pretty good amount of the windmill finished, and I feel like I'm just getting so much closer on this one as well. Down here you'll have some water scenes, but then this is it for the top. It doesn't get any higher than this, the top of the windmill, and then down here we'll complete it out. So I think if I threw this back on the Q-snap and worked on it for a different month, use that as a focus piece, I could easily have this finished. Would I like to have it done so that I can at least put it on the brag table at Stitch West? Sure. We'll see what happens. And then I also worked on Queen Bee, the Queen Bee from Mirabilia. I didn't stitch on her as much as I would have liked to, but I still put about 300 or 400 stitches in. So here's where I finished for this month. I was able to add in quite a bit more red up here, and then I started working on her skirt down below. And this is very reminiscent of checkerboard pattern, which I have mentioned before in Nora's designing. She uses checkerboards a lot. If you look around, she uses it in Villa Mirabilia. She uses it in the Autumn Queen. She uses it in Snow Days. She uses checkerboard in Crystal Christmas. Oh, there are so many. I can see them in my mind, but I can't recall the names, and I'm not going to make you sit through that. But keep an eye out. It's like one of those, once you see it, you can't unsee it, but it's not like it's a bad thing. So yeah, checkerboards. Look, Nora uses them a lot in her designs, and I love it. And then I also worked on Folk Flowers from Satsuma Street. This is, oh, I should say, the Queen Bee is on a 32 count colonial parchment from Stephanie. I don't know what a new constellation is on, but I believe it's a Picture This Plus, either Legacy or Heartland, something like that. And the stockings are whatever Shepherd's Bush has ready to go. And then this is a 28 count chalkboard linen. So I'm really happy with how much I got done on this. Would I like to have this done as well for Stitch West? Yes, but is it going to happen? No. So I'll just keep plugging away at this, and it's turning out so nicely. And then I decided to put one of my August pieces in my backpack that I take to work with me, so that I could kind of see how much progress I made while I was at work. And I will say this, the amount of stitching that I finished was no indication of whether or not we were busy, because we were extremely busy in the OR this month. I am a night shift nurse in the OR at a level 2 hospital, but we do get level 1s because we're kind of out in the, not in the middle of nowhere, but we're substantially far away from the nearest level 1. So if we can handle it, we do it. And should I say that? Jayco, don't come at me. And mum's the word. So anyway, and I do want to say before I show you this, if you are out and about, wear your seatbelt and wear a helmet. And if you can, do both. That's all I'm going to say. So I decided to take Sam's shorts, socks, shorts, and such to work with me. And I got quite a bit done, more than I thought I would. But again, this is no indication of how busy or not busy we were at work. There are plenty of other things that we do when we're not working on cases. We help prepare for the following day and clean and do other things. So this is how much progress I got done. And I'm really surprised because when I first showed this to you, I only had 2 little white stripes stitched. And now I have a pair of pants and a pair of boxers. Over on this side is going to be Uncle Sam's jacket, over on this side is going to be socks, and then there's another element over here. There's some shoes that go along the bottom, and then you'll have the sides of the clothesline. And then I also found out, if I can find my paper, the name of this fabric is, it's a 28 count blue dynasty from Silk Weaver. So I'm pretty happy that I was able to find that, just in case anybody wants something nice and blue and modeled to work on. And then the last piece that I focused on in August was actually a new start, and this is Hector's stocking, and I don't know where I put the picture, but this is Hector's stocking. I got quite a bit done on it, and I'm pretty happy with this. I will say, I'm wondering if there's a little bit of stocking fatigue going on, because I feel like I could be going so much faster on this, but I'm not, but that's okay. It is September and things start to slow down, so maybe my body is just slowing down as well. I don't want to think about that. We're not going to think about that. So, anyway, that stocking is also going to be one of my focus pieces for September, just because I want to get it done and be ready to go. The baby is not here yet. He is not here. So I feel like I have a little bit of time, but it's still the end of the year and Christmas is quickly approaching. So, as far as, well, hold please. I want to show you, I did pick up a piece that I had framed for my daughter Rachel. I went down to Springville to Art City Frame Company and dropped off Eleanor Rigby from Blackbird Designs. I dropped it off a while ago and just picked it up, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. And I want to use this as a way to show you how incredible the quality of museum glass is. I usually don't use museum glass for me because I don't. It's costly, but not super costly. So this is Eleanor Rigby. I use museum glass. I love this frame, and I think it goes so well with this design. And I will say, if you are on the fence about stitching Eleanor Rigby, it is so fast. I did this probably in just a couple of weeks. Not a whole lot of colors, and it was so fun to stitch. And then I did make Strawberry Fields Forever, also for my daughter, but I did not get museum glass with this one, and you can tell because here's all the reflections of everything around. So there's a good, not too reflective reflection. I gave this to her for Christmas, and she moved out and just didn't happen to take this with her. So I am just keeping it at my house. I'm babysitting it. I love this. So she doesn't know. I don't think she knows about Eleanor Rigby, and I'm sorry, Rachel, if you're watching, there's a Christmas present spoiler. So anyway, as far as plans for September, let's do plans for September. And I'm going to start out with a bang because I'm really excited and I've already started working on it. And like I said, when I first showed this, it's going faster than I thought it would. And I'm just really happy with how it's going. So I am pulling out Crystal Christmas, and I'm going to have this done by the end of the month. I know it. I can feel it. It's a long weekend. Maybe I'll just do nothing but bead and finish stitching. So what I did, where'd my board go? Here it is. So what I did last night during a little sit and stitch that I did with the Black Needle Society was I wanted to focus on the Arctic Rays fiber and get that out of the way. and I had mentioned this before, this little fuzzy stuff right here is really thick. It's sparkly and it's really hard to work with. When I started stitching this back in the early 2000s, I didn't understand the concept of tent stitches, or I can't say that I didn't understand it, but I didn't know about it. So when I was stitching with this, I was doing full stitches and it turned out so bulky. And you can see right here, I didn't pull this section out. This I frogged last night, and this I frogged last night. This was all I had done. And you can see a difference between tent stitch here and a full cross here. And even feeling it, it's so much bulky, so much more bulky. There we go. So last night I finished all of the Arctic on the tree. Down here, I frogged all of the Arctic down here, and then I filled in all the little sections on the tree. And then I started coming over to, which side? Her side. I started working on this cherub, and I'll show you. I stitched these beads. See, here's our checkers. More checkers from Nora Corbett. And then I started to work on some of the beads in, which part? Oh my gosh, there are so many beads. I don't even know where I went. Here, and then I started coming up here. And by the time I was done with that section, it was about 1:30 in the morning, and I thought, well, I should probably go to bed. But I wanted to keep going. I've got it. I've got the gusto, so I don't want to lose that steam. So I'm excited. Come back in a month and you'll see a finished object. And then for a project, or for a prompt in one of my challenge groups, I needed something for someone to shelter in and take to hide and take shelter. So instead of using, I don't know, Winter House Manor or Equality Sampler hiding on a ship, or Miss Bingley's library hiding in that house, or any of the other houses that I'm working on, I decided to start something new because it too has a house. This is Brave Hearts from Little House Needleworks. And I got this kitted up off of Stash Unload. Someone had put it up and I thought, ooh, I like this. It'll be a fun little patriotic stitch and should go quickly. It says, red for brave hearts that burn with liberty, white for the peace they make, red for brave hearts that burn with liberty, white for the peace they earn making men free, stars for the heavens above, blue for the deep where in their country's love heroes shall sleep. And then down here at the bottom it has a little sheep. Come on, focus. Maybe. Come on. I don't know what's going on. There we go. Not my face. There we go. I can't win. Not with this camera. So here's the progress that I have. This is only about I'd say 3 or 4 hours working on it. So if I just keep plugging along, I should finish this one pretty quickly too. Then I decided I wanted to do a little more work on Autumn at Hawk Run Hollow. So I threw everything I've already put into Q-snaps, and I had it ironed and I had taped before and had it all laid out. And then last night I filmed one and I thought, okay, this is the one that I'm going to keep. And then I woke up this morning and I started watching it and I thought, I can't put this out there. And here I am. So everything's in snaps, but you can still see pretty good progress or lack of. So what I did was, after I filmed my first Flosstube, I wanted to make sure that I had the counting right down here. So I just took this little section and stitched it so that I could ensure that, yes, I had counted correctly. And I did. So Autumn at Hawker and Hollow. I'm still trying to figure out which one I want to take and use as a work piece. It might be Brave Hearts, just because with it going in little snippets, if I have to drop everything and go prep for a case at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can do so. So anyway, Autumn at Hawker and Hollow will be worked on. And then I also decided to pull out Miss Bingley's Library from Plum Street Samplers. And, oh, I keep forgetting. The fabric that I'm stitching Autumn at Hawker and Hollow on is a coffee dyed piece of ivory linen, and it's 36 count. This is a 40 count fiber on a whim in Affogato. So I'm going to work on Miss Bingley's Library and see how far I can get with this. I just feel like these are measly little starts, and I just want a little more meat and bones to everything. And then, as I had mentioned in one of my other episodes, whatever, I started stitching Jack Frost's Tree Farm on the fabric with the wrong orientation. So I threw this on the snaps, and I'm going to just stitch the outline of this bottom section to see if I need to add any additional fabric at the bottom. I probably will go ahead and add just a little piece of fabric so that when I take it in to get it framed, Betty can stretch it, and it's a little easier to finish, pin, whatever it is I'm looking for. So we'll see how that goes. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling very confident that this is going to work out. I think I'm going to have about an inch left of selvage, and that should be enough. I'll just have it tight, framed around the design a little more tightly. And then I also want to work on the Sleeping Bee. This is on a 40 count piece of Picture This Plus Wren. And I stitched Quilting Bee, which will be tacked on to the end of this little segment that I'm doing. I will say I went through my house and filmed all of my Mira finishes, all of the just kind of everyday pieces that I've done, and a few things that I've made for my mom. And I think that's it. But there's more of my finishes to come after this, and there will be even more on my next video and even more after that. But when you've been stitching for 30 plus, I'm not that old. I can't be that old. I've been stitching for 30 years, but I have a lot of things done, so that makes sense. Anyway, I have a lot of things to show, and we'll just one bite at a time. And then I do want to show some Happy Mail that I got. This is a project folder that I bought from Renee at the Golden Familiars, and I put everything that I need for Sleeping Bee in here. I am a bobbinator. I've been doing it since '93, so old habits, and I just like keeping it neat and organized and a place for everything and everything in its place. So this project bag folder has little pockets for you to keep everything. I've got my pattern stashed away back here. This bobbin page holds 20 bobbins. You've got pockets, snap pockets here, and then a vinyl little pocket here. You've got the section behind, and this holds an 8-inch Q snap. I like everything on an 11 by 11, so I will just put this, maybe I'll take this to work, throw it in my backpack, and then I can pull it out, and everything I need is right here. Check out Renee at the Golden Familiars. I adore her, and I adore the products that she makes. Her aesthetic really is in line with mine, and I do want to show you something else that I got from her. I have it sitting on my OttLite so that I can just look at it. Maybe I'll use it as a needle minder, but This is my little Medusa, oops, this is my little Medusa needle minder that I got from her. I saw one of these at camp, and I was on FaceTime with my roommate, Jen, who wasn't able to make it. And she saw it. She's like, I want that. And I was like, oh, but I want it. I didn't see it, so fair game. So when Renee got back, I said, can you make one for me? And she did. This is gorgeous. Oh, this is absolutely gorgeous. Medusa skull. So I told her I'm probably just going to keep it and look at it. I have my needle minders on a board in the back of the closet, but I've got one little needle minder where I can see it. So anyway, let's talk haul as well. I mentioned that I had to go to Shepherd's Bush to pick up something I legitimately needed. And I also needed some other things too, which may or may not have been on my list. So, oh, here it is. I was going to show you. This is the fiber that is on Crystal Christmas. This is the Arctic Rays, and I'm done with it. So I'm happy to have moved past that section of stitching. Sorry, flosses and everything. But this is what it's like. It's super sparkly. It's really, really pretty, but it's thick. So anyway, that's what is on that Crystal Christmas. Oh, and squirrel, because this is my life. I decided that since I am finishing Crystal Christmas this month, I'm going to be finishing my last stocking for now this month, that I am going to be finishing something else. No, I'm going to be finishing the stocking and Crystal Christmas, that I am going to allow myself a new start. So when I went to Maggie's on Main in Emmett, Idaho on vacation, I go to Idaho on vacation. I was in Boise, and I have family that family that retired in Emmett, and now they live there permanently. I go and clean their headstones whenever I'm in the area, and I just happened to be there back in April. So I stopped at Maggie's on Main and bought a few things, and one of them was this really nice big fat quarter of Shrekie's Tan. And this needle minder is also from Renee of the Golden Familiars. It's upside down, but I love that one as well. So this is a fat quarter of Shrekie's Tan from Needle Bling. Is that right? Yep, Needle Bling. And guess what I'm going to be starting. I'm so excited because, like Flosstube, I'm late to the game. I'm going to be starting Live on Little. I'm so excited. I have a few people that I will constantly comment on their Instagram posts about their progress on Live on Little. And I'll be like, keep going, stop, but keep going, but stop. So this is my reward for doing all the things. Isn't that how it works? Reward ourselves for doing things. So I'm going to be starting Live on Little. It's all kitted up. I have had this kitted up since April. So I feel like my self-control has been very good. And that in and of itself deserves a reward. So maybe I'll start Live on Little for that reason too. I'm excited. Anyway, as far as haul goes, I buy Stash because I plan on living forever. I did pick up the new Harvest Tiny Town. And I'm telling you, Cecilia, if you're watching or if you can hear me, I'm manifesting my voice into your mind. Make one for every day of the year, and I will stitch one for every day of the year. Just saying. When I was at camp, I did win one of the door prizes. You got to you draw a little duck out of a big inflatable animal, and the pattern that I got This is another one that I'm super excited for, is Summer Quaker. I kind of shouted for joy and jumped up and down when I pulled this out, because I have watched everyone else stitching on this, and much like Live on Little, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. So I have this. This will be the first Quaker that I've ever stitched, and I also want to try stitching this on the 46 count fabric. So I'm keeping my eye out for the right piece of 46 count. I don't have it yet, so I'm not going to be starting this just yet, but better late than never. Flosstube episode 3, while other people are at like 514. I will be doing my Summer Quaker stitch along in probably 2035, after everyone's had theirs hanging on their wall for 12 years. Oh, math. So I'm excited to have that pattern. At least I can have it ready to go. I picked up a piece of Smoky White Belfast from, well, Smoky White Belfast. This is the white version of Vintage Country Mocha that I was trying to recall the name of when I filmed a couple times ago, my first episode. And I was like, hey, everybody shout it out and let me know 1, 2, 3. And remember how you guys did that for me? Thank you so much. But I still couldn't remember what it was. It is Smoky White. See, I just said it and I still can't remember it. This is Smoky White. This is the same fabric that I'm stitching Easter row on. And I am going to be doing Malarkey and Shenanigans from Cherry Hill Stitchery. And I will say I've had a lot of these designs for a while, but I bought them in PDF. And because I'm such a paper trail type of person, I buy PDFs and then I immediately forget about it. I will print them out and put them aside, but I don't know. So this is what, did I delete it? No, this is what Malarkey and Shenanigans will look like. I think that's super cute. So there's that. And then I also bought a piece of 28 count lamb's wool, and I will be stitching an Autumn Wish, also by Cherry Hill Stitchery, on that piece of fabric. I have a lot of Halloween. I don't have very many fall pieces, so I thought this would be good to have hanging up during November. My one little section of fall around all of my Christmas stitching. And then I also bought the fabric for Tonight is Halloween by Kathy Barrick. The original design called for a piece of Picture This Plus Ale, but I couldn't find the count that I wanted, 40 count. So I picked up a piece of Lakeside Linen Meadow Rue Vintage, and I thought this is a really nice piece of fabric. So I will be doing Tonight is Halloween on this piece, and here is Tonight is Halloween. It says, shadows of 1,000 years rise again unseen, voices whisper in the trees, tonight is Halloween. And as we are coming up on October, I know it's the beginning of September, but October is next. I thought, well, maybe I will try doing the 13 in October. The 13 for 13. Is that what it is? I'm still new to stuff. So maybe I'll start that next month. And then nope, that's not it. Just kidding. Some of these pieces, like some of these things I got at CC's in Kansas City. Some of these things I got at Shepherd's Bush. I get my fabric from Shepherd's Bush so that I can be there in person. I can look at it and I can feel it. And I'm a tactile person. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the right thing. So while I was at CC's, I did find a copy of Away We Ride. I've had this on my to-do list for forever. And as soon as it was reprinted, I knew that I needed to get a copy. So here's this. And I will put this into consideration. I also picked up, okay, let me change my order here. So when I was at CC's, I did see Sting from Heartstring Samplery. ever since I saw this collaboration, I thought, I really, really want to do this. So when I was at CC's, I found Sting. And then we went over to Quilter Station and I was looking there. Neither place had float, which I couldn't understand why. If you have one, you should have the other, and whatever reasons. So when I was at camp, I got this. And then, excuse me, Jessica Allison of Down Allison Road on Instagram won float. And she said, well, you can borrow this. And so I'm going to borrow. Well, of course I'm borrowing it. I am going to stitch this up, send it back to her. But I decided what I want to do is stitch these together on one piece of fabric. So I bought a great neutral because I don't know if you've noticed, I love a good neutral. This is a 40 count vintage country mocha. It's a universal fabric. It goes with so much. It works, and it works for me, so I'm going to stitch on it. So when I was standing in line just buying Sting, because that's all I was going to get, that and Away We Ride, just kidding. It's, you know how it goes. You go for one thing and you leave with like 10. So I had float and I had Sting and Away We Ride, and I look over in the distance and there's this beautiful model of a house with Halloween. So I picked up Goody Grimwood. The model is what did it for me. So I ran over, picked up this pattern, got that one as well. And then when I was at Shepherd's Bush a couple weeks ago, I asked if they had any Stars Hollow blend because that's what this is stitched on. And I really like how it looks. Terry said that she hasn't seen it for a while. So I went with something that I thought would be a good alternative. So here is, man, a great neutral. It's Picture This Plus Legacy. And this is a 36 count. So I'm going to do Goody Grimwood on Picture This Plus Legacy. And then mail-wise, mail-wise, I had a friend hear me mention that I wanted to stitch hedgerow. We had a pet hedgehog for several years. And well, she's no longer here, but her name was Pearl. She was the saltiest of all of the hedgehogs in the land. And she lived with Rachel she was in Rachel's room when Rachel lived with us. And then when Rachel moved out, she lived with Hannah in Hannah's room. And so I had Sue, thank you, Sue Gonzalez, send me her roommate's copy of Hedgerow. And I'm so excited to stitch this. I want to do one for each of my girls and make them into stockings on the brain. Ornaments. So I'm going to do Hedgerow, 2 of them for my girls, and maybe one if I ever decide that I want to do like a cross stitch tree. And then Sue also sent me Rack Stack, and oh, I'm excited. I think maybe I'll start looking into making all of these Plum Street, what are they called? Stacks? Is that whatever they are. The piles of animals, the stacks, the rows, all the things. I think it would be cute. And then she sent me a really nice note in this card. But that's it for what I have to share right now. And I look at my timer and I'm at 44 minutes and I think, oh my gosh, I've done so much. But then I realize, you know what? I really like it when people have longer floss tubes because there's more for me to look at. There's more for me to hear them talk about. It makes it more interesting. Hopefully you feel the same way. And before I close out this segment and then tack on all of the other little videos that I've done of my framed pieces, I want to say a huge, huge thank you to Deb of the Traveling Stocking Stitcher for your kind words and your approval of the way I did my brother-in-law's stocking by piecing together something that was not originally designed to be a stocking. Thank you. I was really worried that it wasn't going to translate. So having you kind of give me that affirmation, thank you. And then also Lynn of the Lancashire Stitcher. Never in a million years would I have thought that making a silly little video of the things that I like and the things that I love and sharing them with what I would assume to be just the people that I know in person and my friends that I have met in my little section of the stitching community, which is massive. Never in a million years would I have ever thought that someone in Great Britain would watch my video and then say all the kind things that she did. Thank you, Lynn, so much for telling me that it's okay, because it is, and I'm getting better, and I am my own work in progress. So, and then right before I sat down, I'm getting a little teary-eyed. I'm tired. It's because I was up late stitching. Let this be a cautionary tale to you. Don't stay up late stitching, because then when you film Flosstubes, your eyes get a little leaky the following day. But right before I sat down to film this, I got a little pop-up on my Instagram, and it was someone on Instagram, also in Great Britain, giving me a little shout out. And I feel like I should call everyone out by name. And I'm sorry if you have said something and I haven't noticed yet, or if I haven't said your name. I'm getting used to how this works, the whole order of operations and everything. So Hannah Wolstenholme, thank you for sharing my profile, my YouTube profile. Yes, so thank you everyone for coming along. I know I keep saying that. Turn it into a drinking game and you'll be having a good day. So if you ever watched Pee Wee Herman, there was the word of the day on Pee Wee's Playhouse. Let's turn thank yous and anyway, and what are other words that I say a lot of? Turn that into a drinking game and you'll either be well hydrated or pretty sauced by the end of one of these. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the things that I have to share, and I will try and get something done in another couple of weeks. We'll do kind of a mid-month catch up, maybe show a few more of my framed finished pieces, and that's it. So have fun stitching, and I'll see you later. Okay, we're kicking things off with a Christmas piece. Not because I'm getting ready to pull it out to put up, not yet. But this is the first piece that I ever finished on my own. I made an attempt, a very sad attempt, at a Teresa Wentzler carousel horse. For those of you who have been stitching a while, some of you might know which ones I'm talking about. I tried, it was a gray, and I think it was the spring. It was spring or summer. But yeah, I failed miserably at that. I had no idea what I was doing. And then someone somewhere told me, well, you know, you're supposed to start in the middle. And I said, oh, okay. And because that's how I was taught, that's kind of why I do it the same way every time. I'm one of those, this is the first way you learned it, so this is the right way. Not necessarily the only way, but to me it is the right way, if that makes sense. Anyway, this was a dimensions leaflet, and it also had a stocking on it. And I stitched the stocking for my niece, Alex. That was the first that I made. And as you all are aware, it's only snowballed from there. This is stitched on Aida. I think in my lifetime, I've only stitched on maybe 2 pieces of Aida that I can think of. But seeing as how this is my first stitched piece, I had never used the Ballet blending filament before. I had never done Lazy Daisies before, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but all over in this pattern, my stitches switch direction because I didn't know that that was kind of the thing to do, have all your stitches facing the same direction. So the glass broke on this several years ago, and I had a helper decide to add her special little touches to it. I don't know how to get rid of it, but it doesn't bother me. This is my first cross stitch ever, and I love it. So this is the first piece that I stitched on linen. I had gone to visit my sister over my summer break. She was living in the Provo, Utah area while she was attending school to become a teacher, and took me to Diane's cross stitch. And I saw this and asked Diane if she would get me the Aida for it. And she told me she didn't want me to do this on Aida. She wanted me to give linen a chance. So I took her word for it, and she said, I promise you, you're going to stitch this on linen and you'll never want to go back to Aida. And she was 100% correct. I used Anchor Floss on this, and I want to say that this was a Leisure Arts leaflet, but I finished this in 1997 because after I had kitted this up, I started my senior year of high school, and then I went to college and was doing all the late teens, early 20s type stuff. So I finished it in 1997 and have stitched on linen ever since. This is the Quilting Bee by the Blue Flower. I saw this on display at Craft Center of Fine Stitchery and knew that I needed to make it. It's just gorgeous. And so I kitted it up, Johnny on the spot, and held on to it for a while. In my last video, I talked about stitching Will Clarice by the Witchy Stitcher as a way to memorialize my dad, which it's a roundabout way. But I also stitched this in memory of my dad. After he retired from federal law enforcement, he took over a mom and pop honey company that was owned by some close family friends. And the owner, when my dad took over, was, well into his 80s. I'd say he was almost 90. And my dad took it from a small operation to distributing and delivering honey from almost down to the Mexican border all the way up through Los Angeles County. He would deliver to breweries and bakeries and markets all along the way. And so, yeah, I stitched this as a way to remember him. I used all of the called for flosses. Some of them don't show up as good as others, but I still love this so much. I love the frame. I love everything about this. This is Happily Ever After by Bent Creek. I stitched this for Hannah, obviously. I love the little detail on the frame. And that crown took me a couple tries. I don't know why I couldn't get the counting right, but I remember frogging it and restitching it at least twice. But the things we do to make it right. All right, I'm switching up the orientation on my phone just so that I can fit all of these ladies into the picture without having to back up 50 feet. This is Winter Queen. She is the first Mira that I ever stitched, and she is my first love. I cannot get enough of her. She's just so beautiful. Having stitched her in 2000, or I should say having finished her in 2000, you know that my choices for linen were pretty limited, and I just used the called for flosses and everything. This is the first time I had ever beaded, so I was super nervous doing the draping on those, which it was a piece of cake. This was also the first time I used Whisper White, and I learned to hate that ever so quickly. I wish I knew what else to say about her, but she speaks for herself. Nora's designs, gosh, I can't get enough. Next up is Autumn Queen. I finished her in 2001. I remember kitting her up at a cross-stitch store that was located in Escondido, California. I was home visiting and decided to go give that shop a look, and saw this and knew that she was going to be the next one I stitched. So again, she is done on white linen because options were so limited back then. There is also Whisper on this design. I love the checkerboard. I have mentioned in the past that Nora used checkerboards in a lot of her earlier designs, and there it is. The metallic in this part of her dress. Again, more bead draping. Love everything about her. And I will point out the frame that I used for this is the bronze version of the frame that I used for Winter Queen. Next up is Spring Queen. I stitched her third. I finished her also in 2001. And I think of all of the queens, she was my favorite to stitch. I love the yellow in her dress and the richness of the flowers in her bouquet. Yeah, I just really enjoyed stitching this one. No whisper. Maybe that's why there's no whisper in this one. All right, we've got Summer Queen. I finished her, I should say, in 2003. I'm not sure why I didn't get her finished in 2002. Maybe I was just busy doing other things, being a mom, working, all that stuff. But I finished her and I loved stitching her. I love the detail in her hair. Her crown is so subtle. It's so pretty. I love the falling petals. Kind of a harbinger of fall, along with the leaves that go with her feather scepter, I'm guessing. I don't know. But she is so pretty. Next up, we have Angel Proclamation. I finished this in 2005. I stitched it on white linen because options. There is Whisper in this piece, but there are also over-dyed flosses, and I can't remember if the Angels Dwell here at the bottom is a Karen water lilies, or if it was something different. This was also the first time that I had attached ribbon like this, and I use this as a reminder of how far I've come. From far away, it looks great. And I've seen a lot of people say that cross stitch is supposed to be looked at far away. So here we are, far away. Anyway, coming in closer on these little cherubs, they're so beautiful. All the detail in their dresses and their outfits. There's Whisper in their wings. And gosh, I just love these colors. So pretty. And then, like I mentioned before, in the companion piece to this, Crystal Christmas, the angels are reversed. So she is over here. These two are switched. These two are flipped. And then this one is facing the other direction. So beautiful, beautiful piece. Okay, this is Red. She is one of my favorite Mirabilias, if not my favorite. On Mirabilia Eve, which is the 14th of the month, in one of the Facebook groups, a bunch of us were having a discussion about what we had hoped that she was going to release, things that we would love to see eventually, just speculating and contemplating. possibilities. And I had made the comment that I would love to see her take on Little Red Riding Hood. And within a matter of minutes of me making that comment, she loved it. And I got super excited. And then when Red was released, I knew that I had to stitch her. My dad bought me the pattern, and I kitted her up after seeing someone else post their finish of Red on a gray fabric. I just knew that this was the right color for her. It complements her dress so well. And man, I love everything about her. The details in the flowers and the vines. This is the first time I did 1/1 on the skin, and I felt like it was a safe thing to do because she didn't have a whole lot of skin showing, and I love the way it turned out. It's I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't look real. Or it looks real. It doesn't look like cross stitch. I don't know. But all of these seed beads, these bigger beads right here, I love everything about her. Definitely my favorite. Okay, here is Snow Queen, and I love her so much as well. I stitched her skin 1/1 and finished her in 2020. I love the crystals that hang from this reindeer, and I love the detail in her dress. There's that checkerboard pattern that is kind of a recurrent theme in Nora's designs. I finished her in 2020, and this is the first time I used fuzzy stuff instead of whisper, and I don't know if I'll ever go back. I like the texture of fuzzy stuff a little bit better. It actually looks fuzzier than whisper. It has the desired effect that I think whisper has the potential to give but doesn't, and it's kind of hard to tell from here, but I can see it on my end, so just take my word for it. She's beautiful, and I had so much fun stitching her. All right, we've got Miss Honeybee. This is one of Nora Corbett's line, and I loved these the second I saw them and knew that I would stitch them. I love bees. I love the oversized beads in here, and then all of this down in here is kind of a black whisper, and then her dress is so pretty, the shading right here, but then you've got this Krynic bronze in the middle of it all, and then her really pretty antenna with her headdress. And then up above I stitched Miss Queen Bee. I knew that they needed to go together, and oh, she is just as gorgeous, if not more so. I love everything about her. The dress, again, she's got that Krynic striping in there and all the beads. And if you've ever stitched a Nora Corbett design versus a Mirabilia, you know that you are going to have something that is small but equally as fancy as a Mira. The beads, the metallics, everything about them is just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And this is another piece that I stitched for my mom. This is Willow Queen from Nora Corbett. I stitched this on a 32 count piece of Nature's Dance from Fabrics by Stephanie. I think this was the first Mira Nora that I stitched on a piece of Stephanie's fabrics, and oh my gosh, I fell in love. I love the details and the beadwork on this. I was surprised at how much beadwork went into this. She's gorgeous. But I remember when this was released, I thought, oh my gosh, this is so my mom. It's so right up her alley. These browns with those turquoise looking bugle beads and the smaller seed beads reminded me of her so much. My mom is a huge nature lover, and this makes me think of all the pieces of turquoise that she has. I stitched this as a way to thank her for helping me with watching my younger daughter while I was attending nursing school. She really, really helped me out, and I thought this was a perfect way to say thank you. This is Pretty Little San Francisco by Satsuma Street. I gave this to my mom as a gift. She lived in San Francisco in the 60s and has a huge place in her heart for that city. We have ancestors that came across the plains and settled in San Francisco. One of our ancestors, Gene Parker, established a school, and that school is still open today. It is the Gene Parker Elementary School, and it serves the Chinatown area. This is stitched on an 18 count oatmeal floba with all of the called for colors. I love all of these details. I love all the clouds, the fog, the pagoda, that cable car. And how can you not want to sing the theme song to Full House when you see that little row of houses right there? I'm switching the orientation on my phone so that I don't have to back up 50 feet to get this whole thing in the picture. This is The Greatest Loss by Sampler Cove. I was at Craft Center of Fine Stitchery in Salt Lake with my mom, and she saw this hanging on the wall and would not stop gushing about it. She'd look at it, and then she'd go check out other things, and then she'd make her way back over and look at it, and she did that several times. So the next time I went in alone, I bought all of the Overa Soie silks and a piece of 36 count ivory linen and decided to give this a whirl, not knowing what I had just signed myself up for. It says, the loss of a father is much, the loss of a mother is more, the loss of Christ is such a loss as no other can restore. And I started working on this probably in like 2013 or 14. And yeah, it was 2014 because Hannah was a baby at the time. So anyway, coming in closer, you've got this black work design here along this top band. And then these borders, this gold border here and this green border here that repeats lower in the pattern or in the design is, I don't know if there's a specific name for the stitches, but it's one of those you stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it creates that whole design. Same with this green. It's not just cross stitches. It's an order of operations type stitch. Coming down to this band, this was the biggest cause of grief in this whole project. These are queen stitches. I had never done a queen stitch. I had no idea what I was doing. I watched YouTube tutorials 10,000 times. I came back into the shop to ask Jamie and Joy for help on how to do a queen stitch. I looked at the model. I practiced and practiced and practiced all of these queen stitches, and they turn out so beautifully, but getting the stitch done is quite an undertaking. Anyway, then you come down here and you've got these gold stitches, and I love this band with the purple and that gold outline. The gold almost brings a three-dimensional aspect to this purple, and it seems like it just pops right off the fabric. I love this band. I think that design is so pretty. I love this black work right here. And then this flower motif I had never seen before, but I've never stitched a sampler. And you know how they say you don't notice how many other people drive the same car as you until you start driving that car. Now that I've stitched this and I've actually looked at other samplers, I see this a lot, and I think it's beautiful. I love how they have these different stitches filling in the flowers. I love the little back stitch along the leaves. I think it's beautiful. And then again, I did finish this in 2019. That is the same year that my dad passed away. So I knew that I wanted to hurry and finish this and give it to my mom for Christmas. This bottom band is charted in blues and greens, and I just didn't like the way that it was looking, so I changed it to the darker blue and the lighter blue. And then I entered this in the fair the year following, the Utah State Fair. And what I found interesting was they didn't have much to say about my stitching, but they sure had a lot to say about the frame that I chose, which I don't understand why. This is a solid wood frame, and you've got some of these little imperfections in the wood along the side, which I really like. I like the stain. But yeah, I thought their comments on the choice of frame and not so much my stitching was interesting, but even so, I did get a blue ribbon for it, and this lives at my mom's house. The Greatest Loss by Sampler Cove.